95.3 WBCK now presents Coach's Corner, live from Lakeview Ford. For over 6 decades, this has been your number one source for all local sports information. Coach's Corner is proudly presented by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Now, here's your host, Bill Broderick.
This is Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer, in the big chair once again on WBCK for another week of Coach's Corner, coming to you live from downtown Battle Creek at Lakeview Ford on the Motor Mile. For more than 60 years, Coach's Corner has been talking to the city high school coaches about the week in sports. We will be talking to each of the city hoop coaches about this week in hoops. But before we continue, here's the Lakeview Ford Coach's Corner scoreboard. It was another late week of basketball to talk about this week, as Mother Nature did her best to postpone most of the action. However, there were some key games taking center stage. On Tuesday, most of the scheduled games were postponed. A few teams were able to have makeups immediately on Wednesday. Lakeview beat Gull Lake 61-51. Harper Creek knocked off Hastings 64-52. On Friday, in our game of the week, in a key league battle, first place Penfield used a big second half to race past Harper Creek 53-37. Also on Friday in the city, Battle Creek Central defeated Matawan 48-45. Lakeview beat St. Joe 73-67 as the Spartans are in their second win in a row. And St. Phil took down Bellevue 71-44 as the Tigers hit the court for the first time since January 16th. We will be back with our first coach after this commercial. This is Coach's Corner on WBCK 95.3 FM.
Pure Talk.
WBCK, brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Now back to the show.
This is Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer, back here on Coach's Corner. We're here with our first coach of the morning, Coach Robbie Hetton, the Penfield Panthers. Good morning, Coach.
Hey, good morning, Bill. Thanks for having me.
We had Penfield only played once this week because of the weather, but it was a big game last night at Harper Creek in a key Interstate 8 conference rivalry and a city rivalry. Penfield came away with a 53-37 win. After a long week of some school, no school, practices, no practices, you guys hit the court on Friday, and it was a slow start for Penfield. They got down 17-10 early, but you fought back, and it was tied 19-19 at halftime. Then you had that huge second half that told the tale and was the difference in the game. Talk about how that kind of came together there early and how you guys kind of reacted to that at halftime.
Yeah, came out a little uninspired, if that makes sense. It took us a little bit, but once we got going, we were all right. First half, I thought we played great defensively as well. We held them to 19 points, and, they made a couple shots, that were some good shots. The Eversole kid's a heck of a shooter, and, we just kind of weathered that little bit of a storm at first. We just, at halftime, we just told the kids, look, we just got to increase our intensity. We got to increase our defensive pressure. We got to block some shots, put some pressure on their ball handlers, which was the game plan to begin with. We just didn't really quite execute that part of it, and let our defense turn into offense for us. And, the big thing, too, in the first half is we just weren't feeding the ball to our post players very much. We were trying to be a perimeter-oriented team, and, where our strength is going inside. So, that first half, we didn't quite execute that, but, they came out with a good game plan. They were face guarding Calvin and Peyton, who are our two of our better three-point shooters, and they would double Johnny with everybody else. And so we just had to make some quick adjustments, and at halftime we were able to do that.
Yeah, at halftime you came out, and then you made 6 of your first 7 shots in the second half. A lot of those were either in transition or in the post, like you said, and then Drayshawn Bailey got in the act, and he scored 6 straight points at one point in the third quarter, and you guys were up 37-22 at that point. And then overall, in that third quarter, you eventually went on a 26-9 advantage in the period, and we're up 45-28 when the quarter was over. A lot of that had to do with, like you said, some transition buckets, some getting some block shots and getting some easy baskets. You didn't I don't think you hit a three-pointer for the whole game, but you guys did make what you had available to you and hit some baskets that way and went into the post. Johnny Lake got loose, and Calvin Payson got loose when they were doubling Johnny. He was able to get some baskets in the paint, and a huge third quarter and the way you guys played there, you had to love what you saw there. Is that right, Coach?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, our thing is defense leads to offense. You know, we have to put the energy in on the defensive side, and our defense needs to travel with us no matter where we go. Sometimes your offense isn't, and you know, Harper Creek with the unique lighting puts some challenges on, you know, depth perception, and you know, as much as you try to mimic it in practice, it's hard to do that. So, you know, yeah, we did not shoot the ball very well last night. But I don't even think we really took too many threes, which is unique for us because we are a really good three-point shooting team. But you know, we said, listen, get the ball inside. You know, halftime, we just got to keep pounding it inside. And when they double, Johnny's going to find the open guy. I mean, I think he had 7 or 8 assists last night. You know, just you gotta trust that he's going to make the play, and you know, and then they stopped. You know, they weren't doubling as hard, so then Johnny can go to work, and you know, and it was a credit to Calvin and even Peyton, who, you know, both of them didn't really get any shots up, but you know what, they still battled their butts off on the defensive end, and found ways to contribute on the offensive end without being 3-point shooters. So, you know, but I'll tell you, you know, between those guys and then, you know, one person we haven't even mentioned yet is Brady Conley. Holy cow, the kid had 5 steals that really helped us get into transition. Him and Drayshawn really amped up their defensive pressure. Anytime we made a basket, we knew we wanted to, you know, get right on them and really put the pressure on them. So, you know, Brady and Dre really amped that up in the second half. And then, you know, after that, we were just off and running.
Yeah, Johnny Lake had 17 points to lead you, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, 5 blocks. Calvin Payson had 11 points, 6 rebounds, 4 blocks for himself. Drayshawn had 8 points, 4 steals, and like you mentioned, Brady Conley had 5 steals. And we talked about this a little bit last night. Your length gives a lot of teams a lot of trouble in this area, and when you have that front line of 6'6" Johnny Lake and 6'6" Calvin Paysons and 6'3", 6'4" Peyton Burlington, you can do a lot of things with that in terms of getting deflections and even block shots. And that was happening last night with the block shots. And those block shots, some of them were turning into almost like open court turnovers that would end up doing baskets on the other side. When you have that in your back pocket to kind of use that size advantage, that's a good thing to have. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I kind of took the reins off last night. You know, I'm a big don't leave your feet guy defensively. You know, get a high hand up. But we just weren't. You know, our kids were, in the first half, we were closing out with our hands down. And so I said, go give me a block. You know, go attack the ball, put pressure on their shooters. So we got one, and then this became contagious. And at halftime, I'm like, keep doing it. Or at a timeout, I'm like, just keep doing it. Keep looking for it. And you know, it kind of became, you know, a block fest there for a little bit. I think in the second half we had 10 or 11 blocks. You know, and yeah, you know, you're right. Length is huge, and we got to understand we got to use our length. You know, when we play teams that maybe don't have the same size as us, we tend to play smaller for some reason. So it was really nice to see us in the second half, you know, take the advice that the coach gave them, and hey, we got to be the bigger team here. And they really used that towards our advantage in the second half. You know, and we controlled the rebounds, which was huge for us. We've been, one of our Achilles heels is we've been giving up a lot of offensive rebounds, and we really controlled and dominated the boards last night.
So the victory keeps you undefeated in the league. You guys are now 8-0 in the Interstate 8 Conference, looking to defend your championship that you shared with Harper Creek and Marshall last year. You have a 2-game lead on the rest of the field. One of the games that was postponed this week was one of the teams that's in second place, Marshall. That was supposed to be played on Tuesday. That was postponed. Looking ahead to next week, you're going to get Marshall next Friday, I think, in the makeup. And that'll be a key game in the league there. And then you have another game before that. I'm looking at the schedule here. Who do you guys play on Tuesday?
We got Vicksburg on Tuesday, Marshall on Friday.
All right, so that makeup coming around the corner there with Marshall is going to be big, and the Vicksburg, a non-conference game. What do you know about Vicksburg so far, and what they kind of give you that you guys have to kind of handle?
Yeah, so I think Vicksburg's got one of the better guards, in the area. He can really score and light it up, and they're very well coached. It's going to be a battle. I'm excited. It's youth night for us, so we want our little kids to come out. We're giving away Penfield basketball player trading cards, and some keychains, and we got the local card shop in Battle Creek is sponsoring the event, so they're coming and handing out free prizes, and it's going to be a good fun night for our community. And then, but they're tough, man. They're real tough. It should be a good basketball game. And then obviously, big one Friday. We're not going to look towards that though. We're going to focus on Vicksburg so we can, hopefully, get that number one seed in our district. And, and then obviously, like you said, Friday's the big one. And, theoretically, if we can win Friday, we kind of wrap up our share of the league, if that makes sense. Obviously we want to win it outright, but if we can win Friday, everybody else would have 3 losses and we'd only have 3 remaining. So, it's kind of a big one for us, and we want to make sure we can handle our business. And, but we're going to use tomorrow and Monday to get ready for Vicksburg and, just be ready to go, clean up some stuff on us.
Look forward to a big week for Penfield, and look forward to those games. And we'll look forward to talking to you, Coach, next Saturday about hopefully for a couple more wins. So appreciate you calling in, Coach.
Thanks, Bill.
We'll be back with our next Coach of the Morning after this break on WBCK 95.3 FM.
Hi, I'm Sherry Harris, owner of LifeSource. The benefits of quality water have never been more apparent. That is why Bay Area families know a LifeSource whole house water system is their essential home appliance. No regular maintenance and no worrying. We build, install, and stand behind every system. So start your new year right. Call our U.S. factory at 1-800-WATER-99 or visit lifesourcewater.com. LifeSource. Taste and feel the difference.
Warranty limitations apply.
95.3 WBCK. Proudly brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Here's Coach's Corner.
This is Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer, back here on Coach's Corner with our next Coach of the Morning, Coach Matt Bowling of the Harper Creek Beavers. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Bill.
We have Harper Creek played a couple games this week. You were one of the lucky teams to get some games in, and it started out with a Tuesday game against a Hastings team. You had lost to Hastings earlier in the year, so you're looking to get some revenge a little bit against that in an Interstate 8 conference game, and you were able to do that. You won 64-52. And what did you see in that first Hastings game that kind of helped you out this week against the Saxons?
Well, it wasn't so much what we saw the first time around. They shot the ball lights out against us at their place, and I just did I watched a lot of film with other games and watched and looked at some scores that they'd had, and we made some adjustments defensively. And I thought offensively against their man offense, they do a lot of standing. I thought we could guard them pretty well, and they beat us up on the glass at their place pretty good. So we played man and switched that up and got in the gaps, and we thought at our place they won't shoot the ball as well as they did there. And those were the big adjustments that we made, and took care of their big pretty well. Cam did a good job defensively, doing his work early and moving him out of position. And those are the adjustments we made. And then it was 22-21 at the break. We're down 1, and we challenged the guys to step up and make some shots. And when it was all said and done, we had 40 points in the second half. So we hadn't had an offensive shot in the arm like that all year, so that was good to see us. So it's like just the opposite of what happened at Hastings for us.
Yeah, 40 points and a half. It had to be huge for you guys. Sometimes you've been struggling a little bit on the offensive end, so that had to feel really good. And Maddox McCarty had 16 points. Cam Converse and Dylan Eversole each had 14. Keeson Trevino had 11, and it was a nice victory in the conference, and gave you guys a little bit of a feel-good victory at home, and then set up Friday. You guys had to be feeling good on Thursday at that practice before Friday's game, and feeling like you had some things going your way, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was great to see Cam shoot the ball as well as he did. We had 4 guys in double figures. That was really good. One of the best performances we've seen out of Cam all season. And Maddox was steady, and Dylan hit some shots too. So it was good to see that. And then Keeson came along and had another good night for himself. So it was good to have some offensive balance and production. and it'll give us a little confidence heading into Friday.
And that Friday game was a big crowd at Harbor Creek. Penfield came into town, and it was a nice crowd for both the girls and the boys basketball game. And Harbor Creek came out on the short end, 53-37, but it was kind of a tale of two halves, as they say. And you guys came out and probably using some of that momentum from Hastings in the first half, and you played really well in the first half. And you're up 17-10. You saw some shots go down. Dylan Eversall had 3 3-pointers in the game. That one 3-pointer gave you that 17-10 lead, and things were rolling it in the right direction at that point. Penfield was able to scratch back and get it to 19-19 by halftime, so you lost some of that momentum by intermission. But that early part, talk about what was working for you guys in that early lead there.
Well, I mean, it's no secret if you take away their transition, they're not as explosive, and that was a big thing we had to do. And we had to keep them off the offensive glass. I felt like we matched up, and we played some man. We matched up pretty well in all spots, but one. It's hard to have a matchup for Lake. He does a lot of good things inside and out. We did a decent job there. I think Payson's most of his points came in that third quarter. And, that first half was pretty solid for us. When it was 17-10, we just didn't put enough baskets in to keep that gap and keep it growing. We just kind of stalled there. And that's kind of what happened in the first half, and credit them for running that back and making it 19 at the break.
And that was kind of big for you. If you guys have a 4 to 5 point lead at halftime, things are a little bit different at halftime. You're coming out second half, you could do a couple different things. Penfield coming back and tying it 19-19 at halftime, and they're feeling a little bit better about themselves going into the second half. And then whoever has the early spurt in the third quarter was going to kind of take over the momentum of that game, and that ended up being Penfield. And they ended up having the 26-9 surge in the third quarter to take over that game. And a lot of that was what we talked about last night. It was some turnovers that led to touchdowns, as they say, in some of those situations. And then as the kind of rolled downhill that way, your offense kind of cooled off at that point too, for a lot of those same reasons. You weren't getting the shots that you wanted, and you weren't getting a lot of uncontested shots that you saw in the first half.
Yeah, it was really frustrating when 3 of our first 4 offensive possessions out of the halftime were turnovers, and they weren't forced. We just coughed it up just on our own, and then we had a 3 in there, and sandwiched in that. But that was, and then that got them feeling good again. Two of those 4 were runouts, and then once they got running out, and then that's where I think. They got feeling good, and the momentum kind of started right there. So that was tough to overcome, and then we got a little antsy at the offensive end, feeling like we had to match it. Went a little quicker than maybe what we should have, but that's basketball, and I credit them for that. That's how it played out.
Right, exactly. And it's a little bit of a tough matchup situation against Penfield for a lot of teams because of their size, and you guys don't send up anyone else on the floor that's over 6'2", so that size hurts you guys a little bit more than some others, and some of those they got their hands up and were able to contest some of those shots. Talked about how you didn't take advantage of that a little bit as much as you could have by maybe driving as much in the second half and taking what you could get. But Harbor Creek ended up with one player in double figures, Maddox McCarty, coming up big again. He continues to play well for you with 12 points. Dylan Eversall had those 3 3-pointers for 9. And that sends you guys into next week. And you guys don't have any – a lot of times we talk about this point of view, some makeup. Harbor Creek hasn't had that as much trouble as some other teams. You guys have been able to get a lot of your games in or have made them up like you did this week, or you played Wednesday right away after your Tuesday postponement. So – you have a clean week coming up, and looks like you have a Plainwell at home on Tuesday, and then you can head down to Coldwater on Friday. Yeah,
that's we're on schedule with our games, and that's a good thing for us. And then Plainwell Tuesday at home, and then on the road Friday at Coldwater.
You know anything about Plainwell yet, or are you still digging into some of that tape?
Well, we have 2 of their games on Huddle. That's my homework for today and tomorrow morning, or tomorrow afternoon. So we'll get to that and devise some plans and see what we can do for Tuesday.
It's a non-conference game there, and then the Coldwater's been playing off and on. They've been hot and cold a little bit lately, but they got a win last night. So that's always a tough matchup for you guys in terms of those two teams. You see each other all the time, so it's heading down to their place is always a tough place to play.
Yeah, we're gonna go down there. It's their senior night, so we'll have our hands full. And like I said, they're playing better. They got, I think, 16 points from one of their sophomores, their leading scorers last night, and then the Taylor kid is their point guard. He's a 4-year starter. He's been there a while, and he had 15. So we always have to account for him first, and then try to build things around that defensively.
Look forward to a big week for Harbor Creek next week that we can talk about next Saturday. Thanks a lot for coming in, Coach.
All right, thanks, Bill.
Back with our next Coach of the Morning after this break on WBCK 95.3 FM.
Coach's Corner on WBCK, brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Now back to the show.
Off of action,
Yep.
and he was just standing there by
This is Bill Broderick back here on Coach's Corner. We're here with our next Coach of the Morning, Coach Steve Wickman of Lakeview Spartans. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Bill.
Lakeview was able to get a couple of their games in this week despite the weather, and that's a good thing to see. Your Tuesday game was postponed, but you were able to run it back and get the game in on Wednesday, and you played Gull Lake. For the second time of the year, you beat Gull Lake, this time 61-51. And talk about seeing this team a second time and then using that confidence in the first game to kind of have that play out in the second game.
Yeah, I think there is something about that when, it can go two ways, right? Because sometimes the team that got beat decides they want to get revenge, and they play up a little bit higher. And I think for us, I think our guys are they're hungry to see results, right? Because this is a very hardworking group and a very prideful group that we have, and they want to see some positive results and on the scoreboard. So going in there. We talked about how we had beaten them the first time, and so we know we can beat them because we've done it, but we have to play, and you can't just show up and think that the other team's going to lay down. So I was really pleased with our approach. Our kids were ready to go. We were a little rusty early after a whatever it was, 10-day or 12-day layoff or whatever, but once we got rolling, it was pretty good.
You had a balanced scoring sheet there. Tavion Newton, Nolan Porter, Owen Davis all at 9 points. But a nice story that's kind of coming around for you right now is Josiah Wanzer at 12 points. And he's your young guy that's kind of come up, and he's been playing well for you.
Yeah, Josiah's been having really, really huge impact for us. Just coming in off the bench. He's our biggest dude now, and he just – I don't know what it is. He has a nose for the ball on the glass. When the shot goes up, I think he thinks it's his rebound. He scores a lot of points off offensive rebounds and putbacks. So, and it's nice to have a big kid that you can run some things to and think you might get a layup too. That's always helpful for a basketball team to think that you can maybe just throw it to him and score. So, and we've been missing that this year. So. To have him in and doing those things is nice, and then to see 9, 9, and 9, and just the balanced scoring, and we were kind of the same thing last night, and it's kind of coming together a little bit. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out, but I'm really happy with just the way these guys have persevered.
And you rolled that momentum into last night, like you talked about. You played St. Joe, and you came away with a 73-67 win. 2 wins in a row is a great thing to see for the Spartans. And what was happening last night that was working well for you?
Bill, that's called a winning streak.
That is called a winning streak. That's a good thing to have.
Yes, it's nice. It's a nice feeling. I told the kid when I came in the locker room after the game, I said, that's a winning streak, boys. I think last night, we were the other team last night, right? We had gotten beat by St. Joe down there in overtime, and we had some confidence that we could compete. We knew that we were right there down there, and they shot the lights out. They made 12 threes, I think, down there. So our goal last night was to try to run them off the three-point line and try to make sure that they didn't get so many easy looks. We just didn't defend real well over at St. Joe. So I thought we did a good job with our game plan. I thought we really kept them in check from the three-point line. They still made probably 5 or 6 of them, but they didn't win the game because of the three-point line like they did there. So our defense was really on spot. I mean, we didn't give up too many easy things, and then when you do that and they're taking tougher shots, then our fast break got going. And when we start running like that, I think we're a better team.
And Isaiah McFerrin had 17 points for you, and I know that's what you like to see, a kid like that get good points, because he's a defensive player for you a lot of times. But when he can get 17 points on the offensive side and ride that momentum, that's everything for the whole team in terms of getting some. The whole team feels better when one of your kids is who works so hard to get 17 points. And talk about that a little bit. That's big.
And I'm so happy for Isaiah because nobody works harder than him. I mean, that kid is one of the hardest workers I've ever had, and he's always our defensive stopper first. But last night, funny story that I found out after the game is we have Ronald Jamerson with us as our assistant coach, and that he told me after the game that he kind of got into Zay a little bit before the game and said, "Dude, quit thinking about it so much and just go play." And so I give him a lot of credit for that, for just kind of lighting a fire under Zay's butt last night. And then he has all the talent in the world to do what he did last night consistently, but just really, really pleased for him because he's such a good kid and he works so hard. And to see his smile after the game was really cool.
Owen Davis chipped in with 10, and then Josiah Wanzer at 13. Again, Wanzer, you brought up from the JV a couple of games ago, and I know you were excited when you brought him up to give you a chance, but I'm not sure if you saw all his points. You're hoping maybe for some rebounds and some defensive presence in the paint. Seeing some baskets out of him and coming up from the JV, that's been a nice surprise, and he's a work in progress, but it seems to be coming along faster than you like.
Yeah, well, and his defense is getting better by the day. He had a couple block shots last night, which he doesn't jump extremely well. Like he's a big dude, so he hasn't quite got his legs under him yet. But he did he blocked some shots last night, and I thought you mentioned Owen. Owen had a great couple big shots for us when the game was kind of tight. He's finally settled into like just play basketball, and he's doing a much better job lately of shot selection and not turning the ball over. And we kind of moved him off the point guard a little bit to take some pressure off him too, and I think he's liked that. And and then the other dude that had a great game last night was Nolan Porter, who had I think 14 last night, and we were missing Landon Gordon last night with a bruised thigh, and so we started Nolan, and he gave us some instant offense last night, like he does when he comes off the bench. So that was good to see too.
So we turn the page and we look to next week, and you might not want to look to next week when you look at the schedule there, but you have Kalamazoo Central coming up, and they're one of the better teams, not just in the conference, but one of the better teams in the state. They're loaded, and they're considered one of the favorites to maybe get to Breslin there for the Final Four. When you face a team like that, Kalamazoo Central, who you see every year, and that gives you guys an advantage because you do see that team every year, so there's no mystery to it, but they are also very talented. So you got your hands full when you play at Kalamazoo Central.
Yeah. I mean, they're obviously the cream of the crop in our league this year, and I think they are getting some recognition across the state. As one of the better teams in the state. They will have to somehow figure out how to get through East Lansing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that'll be a fun game to watch
to get to the Breslin.
Unless they get knocked
out. Before that though, we have a game at Lakeshore on Monday.
Okay, make up that.
Which maybe people don't have on their schedule. Yeah, so Monday we're going over to Lakeshore. Tuesday we're home with K Central, and then Friday we're home. So we have 3 games. We figured out last night we're gonna. By playing Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, that's 4 games in whatever that is, 6 days or 7 days.
Yeah.
So, so we'll be tested. We don't have a deep, we have 9 guys that, we have 10 players, but if someone's hurt, we have 9 guys last night, So the idea of, the attrition thing may come into play. So, for the kids, it's great. They love playing. I mean, obviously, you'd rather, as a high school kid, you'd rather play game every day than
run sprints at practice.
Yeah, than doing practice. Yeah. But I will say, these guys come to practice every day, in work, and it hasn't been. I don't think this recent surge is by accident or by luck. These guys work, so we'll show up. We'll go to the lake shore, hopefully, God willing, snow willing, and all that good stuff, and then we'll turn around, come home, and play the next day, and then play again on Friday.
So check your schedules. That Lakeshore game is added or a postponement that was snuck in there on Monday. So they're playing Monday, Kalamazoo Central on Tuesday, Porter Central at home on Friday. So a big week for the Lakeview Spartans. A big week to talk about next week when we get back together. We'll look forward to doing that, Coach.
All right. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks a lot for coming in. We'll be back with our next Coach of the Morning on WBCK 95.3 FM after this.
8-4.
Coaches 5.3 WBCK. Proudly brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Here's Coach's Corner.
This is Bill Broderick back here on Coach's Corner. Here with our next Coach of the Morning, Coach Kimber of the St. Phil Fighting Tigers. Good morning, Coach.
Morning, Bill.
We haven't talked to Coach Kimber for a little while because they haven't been playing for a little while. Before last night, St. Phil hadn't played since January 16th. They finally got on the court, played Bellevue, came away with a 71-44 win. Had to be nice to get back on the court, right?
Yeah, I think our guys were a little antsy to play each other. I think if we would have had another game, snow or cold out, some of those practices might have resulted in an injury. I think our guys were just tired of playing each other.
So they got on the court and played a Bellevue team that always gets you going. Bellevue hasn't had the kind of year that it's wanted to or has experienced the last decade or so, but they're struggling. But you still want to get that victory over Bellevue whenever you see them, and it's kind of a one-sided win. What was happening earlier in that game to get you guys rolling?
We like to play fast, so game started off real quickly. We won the tip-off. I believe Lincoln won the tip-off. He tipped it out to Carter in the front court, and Carter hit Jackson on a little pitch-up layup, and started the game off 2-0. We started off quick. We controlled the tempo. We got the ball in, and then every time we got the ball back, we kind of just pushed in transition and got some easy layups down there. So, we picked the pace early, got rebounded well, and we got out to a big lead real fast, which was nice to see because we've been off to a lot of slow starts since the turn of the new year. So, getting out there and controlling the pace of the game from the tip was a big point of emphasis that we needed to get going.
You could be rusty also after so much layoffs, so you had to be fearful of that. So seeing the guys get off early and getting that early confidence had to be just exactly what you wanted to see, right?
No, it was exactly what we wanted to see. I think it was 20-6 after the first quarter. I mean, as a coach, I'm still disappointed we let up 6 because I think it was 16-2 with a minute to go. But still, we definitely could have gotten rusty over a 2-week layoff. But the boys came out and played hard, and they played physical, which we needed to do with their big guy Levi Hughes. Our boys didn't back down from a challenge.
And we had Jackson Diswick at 25 points for the Tigers. Lincoln Diswick at 23. Carter Diswick at 10. On the Bellevue side, Levi Hughes, like you mentioned, at 18, and Carson Dahlem at 11. So getting those points from your big seniors is always a recipe for success for you guys, and those guys had things going. That big lead at halftime, and you come out of the second half, you want to keep the pressure on and keep things going. How important is that, first 4 minutes of the second half in a game like that?
Extremely important. We had talked about it. We gave up 6 points in the first quarter, and then we gave up 14 in the second quarter, and so we really wanted to come out with relentless energy on the defensive end. We still let up 16 in the third, so we were a little frustrated on that end of it, but the offense came out and played extremely well. I thought Jackson did a great job running the point. We haven't seen a lot of zone this year, which is weird because the last decade it feels like we've only seen zones, and so this is only like the second time we've seen zone. I thought Jackson ran the point guard and Carter ran the point guard extremely well with the zone, getting the ball moving side to side in the second half, and so that was some great ball movement we wanted to see. And Jackson hit Lincoln a couple of times from the high post into the low post, and it was just there were some great passes there that really spark some momentum, and we could really attack them from both sides, inside and outside, because we got a plethora of shooters on the perimeter, and so being able to get the ball inside too, that really spreads out a zone defense when they got to contribute for all four corners of the offense.
When you get a game like that, and your team specifically, you want to see your young guys play some good basketball because you want to see them on the floor. There's not as much pressure when you get a lead like that to have to lean on your seniors as much. Did you see that a little bit last night, and what did you see?
I did. We did definitely last night. Caleb Francisco looked a lot more aggressive from the wing spot in the zone offense in the second half. I was really pleased with him. He was, he's a good shooter, but I was really hoping I'd see him take some in attacking gaps in the zone, and he did. He attacked gap, got a couple of good mid-rangers, and then Michael Miller, junior for us, he bangs real tough with Levi Hughes. When Lincoln was in foul trouble, I think Lincoln had 4 fouls with about 4 minutes left in the third quarter, and Michael had to come in and play some big, long stretches there. There was a couple times where I had to take a couple 30-second timeouts to get him a breather, because you're battling a guy who's probably got 100 pounds on you and 5 inches or so on you. You're going to be out of breath. So I was really pleased with that. Unfortunately, we had an injury from Cooper Rabbit in the JV game, so we didn't see too much from him last night in the varsity game. Really wanted to get him a little bit more of confidence on the offensive end, but another guy, Ryder Weiss, came in, stepped up big on the defensive side, but he was aggressive on the offensive side, and so I really liked seeing that. And then we started a freshman who's been playing most of the year on JV this year, Gio Lugo. He's been making great strides in practice, and we wanted to give him a little bit more of a crack at some varsity minutes last night, and he came in and he did a great job. He's going to be a good player, and so getting him up there and adding another guy to our rotation was extremely important. And so I thought the youngsters and Michael got a lot of good run last night, and so that's very promising to see, especially considering that we're less than a month from postseason.
So all these 2 weeks off meant some games that have to be rescheduled, and so looking at the original schedule is not going to do us too much good. So
No.
you let me know what you guys are playing next week. I'm sure you have some makeups there.
Actually, this is the only week on the MHSAA website that you could be 100% accurate on. We have Climax on Wednesday and Mendon on Friday, so a big week in terms of division games and rivalries. I mean, Climax is always been our rival, regardless of the conference and everything like that. And then Mendon's a rival. They've been a rival since before I was even in school at St. Phil's. So 2 big games this week. Mendon's top of the division. Climax, they're probably the 2 seed in our district right now. So it should be a good competitive week. We're hoping, we're 2 games behind Mendon in the conference right now, and we're hoping to give Mendon their first conference loss, and then hopefully get a little help on the backside and maybe be able to either get a tie of the conference or pull it out again. But we're going to need some help for that.
So a big week for St. Phil, Climax Scots and Mendon. That Climax Scots game is on Wednesday this week.
Yes, Climax
Tuesday?
Wednesday, Mendon Friday.
All right.
Climax at home, Mendon on the road. So if you want to come down to 20 Cherry Street on Wednesday, come on down. It's packed the gym night.
It'll be a fun game to watch. Climax Scots, St. Phil. It's always a fun game to watch. Thanks a lot, Coach, for coming on down.
Thanks, Bill.
We'll be back with our next Coach of the Morning after this break on WBCK 95.3 FM.
Coach's Corner on WBCK, brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Now back to the show.
This is Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer, back here on Coach's Corner. We're here with our next Coach of the Morning, Coach Durant Crum of the Battle Creek Central Bearcats. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Bill.
We had Battle Creek Central, just like everybody, is trying to fight the elements to try to get some games in, and you were able to get one in last night. You played Lloyd Norix, or you played Madawan last night, and you had a big win, 48-45, victory over Madawan. The game was close most of the way. It was close going down in the final minute. We talked about last night how Madawan had a couple 3-pointers go up in the final minute that could have tied it, but your guys played good defense on those and kept those from going in, and you came away with that victory. And it's a big win after having a layoff for your young guys. And talk about that and how important that was.
Yeah, well, you're right. The layoff think all Michigan teams in this area are having to deal with the same thing. But so we had some extra time in the gym actually to prepare for upcoming contests. And last night it was close pretty much from beginning to end. There at Mattawan, hard fought on both ends, and we were able to play well enough, especially down the stretch defensively, to be able to pull out the win.
So you talked about how a key to that win last night was hitting your free throws, which hasn't always happened for you guys this year. You made your first 15 free throws for the game. You went 15 for 17 overall. Going to the charity stripe and hitting those baskets keeps you in the lead in games, keeps you some momentum at times. And how big are those free throws for a young team like your guys?
Yeah, well, we've been focusing a little time and energy in practice on free throw routines and focus concentration there because we hadn't been really shooting them that well this year. But last night, for whatever reason, the first 15 free throws went down, and we didn't miss any free throws until the last two of the games. So, yeah, 15 out of 17 is by far our best performance at the free throw line. And like you say, free throws are important. Sometimes I think players get to the line and just, I don't know, maybe get caught up in the spotlight being just on them and not really concentrating and focusing on the free opportunities, to get points on the board.
Lee Campbell Jr. had another big game for you, had 17 points. For the Bearcats, Damani Spraggins had 11, and with the victory, you guys improved to 8-5 overall, and keeping this train going in the right direction for you. But you don't have too much time to celebrate. Valkyrie Central is going to come back and play today in a showcase game over at Laurie Norrick's. Talk about that game a little bit and what you have to look forward to.
Well, yeah, we played Laurie Norrick's earlier in the season at our place, and they came in and beat us pretty good. I think at least a dozen points or something like that. So we've known all along that we had to, see them again and hopefully be able to pay them back for what they gave us when they came down to our place. So yeah, they have a showcase going on today. We're going to play Lloyd Norrick's, I think, in the nightcap. I think it's scheduled for 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock at Lloyd Norrick's.
That was originally scheduled for you guys to play Ottawa Hills. Did something fall through with that situation, or what's happening with that?
Well, part of it, Bill, I think, was driven by what we talked about earlier. We're struggling to find days that we can agree on to play makeup games. Lloyd Norris was one of the games that was canceled due to the weather last week, and they asked us to come play in the showcase, but they were going to pair us up against Ottawa Hills. But we're struggling to find a day where we could schedule our makeup game. So we decided that maybe it made more sense if we were coming their way and there were going to be games played, that we just play each other today versus, play Ottawa Hills to get that conference game taken care of.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. So you won't have a makeup later on and play Lloyd Norrick's a third time going forward. This is going to be the makeup date for Lloyd Norrick's, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. That's good. Well, all right, that's good. That kills two birds with one stone. You get to go play in the showcase, and then you get to play Lloyd Norrick's at the same time and get that figured out. Do you know is Ottawa Hills playing a different team over there in the other game over there? Or how's that going?
Yeah, there's going to be at least 3 other games preceding our game at 6. So I think there's I'll just say like a 1 o'clock game, a 3 o'clock game, a 5 and I don't know. There's at least 3 other games. I can't speak to the times. And most of them are Grand Rapids teams. I think maybe Grand Rapids South Christian might be one of them, Grand Rapids Ottawa Hills. I want to say maybe Hackett or something. Well, that might be counting. Anyway, I'm sorry. But, yeah, I looked at it, but I can't remember the matchups. But there will be at least 3 games played, I believe, before our game.
And Lloyd Norris and yourselves, is another Kalamazoo team playing over there too, or to make up the other side of that?
I think Kalamazoo Phoenix is
okay. All right.
Is in the lineup as well.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes it for a big week you have coming up. You play that game tonight versus Lloyd Norris over there in that showcase, and then you turn back around and you're going to host Stevensville Lakeshore on Tuesday. And then you're going to play in Portage Northern after that. A big week for the Bearcats. What do you know about Lakeshore so far, and what do you have to look forward to in that game?
Well, one thing we know is they always seem to come with size. I think they're got some pretty tall young men on their squad, and they play really hard. I mean, the things that are typical about them, I think we have to expect. Try to mix up their defenses. They'll play some zone. They'll play some man-to-man. They'll be physical and aggressive on the boards with their size. And so we got our work cut out for us, and we just have to prepare for the things that we do know that they bring to the table, and that's execution and physicality.
Well, you've had a lot of time to rest, like you've talked about, a lot of postponements and some missed practices and stuff like that. But so there's not going to be any complaining from you guys, but they are going to be playing. They played last night, they're playing today, and they're going to play Tuesday. What kind of challenges are there for a coach or for your team when you end up playing 3 games in a matter of 5 days? And are there any advantages to that? Maybe that gets you ready for district play, which you'll see that sometimes, or what's your mindset when you talk about that kind of situation?
Yeah, well, I think it's difficult for guys high school age. You have to constantly remind them of taking care of their bodies and hydrating themselves and getting rest, and realizing that 3 games is gonna take its toll on you. So yeah, we're constantly reminding them of that. Kids these days want to stay up late, watch TV, play video games, all that kind of stuff. And weeks like this, when you got 3 games that close to one another, you got to accept the fact that your body's gonna pay a price. And if you want to be successful in those games, you got to make sure that you're ready to play and good to go. So, that's the biggest thing. I don't see a whole lot of advantage, more disadvantage, I think. But like you say, when you get in the tournament, you're going to have to play 2-3 times a week to get where you're hoping to get. But that's about the only advantage.
So the first one up is Lloyd Norris. Give us a quick scouting report on Lloyd Norris based on the first time you guys saw them.
Very athletic. They have a little size. Everybody's got more size than we do, it seems, these days. But very, very athletic. They try to force the tempo. Up-tempo game is what they want to play. They get up and down the court real well. They have a really big body. I can't remember the name of the young man, but he's about 6'5" and about 260 or 70 pounds. It seems like he's a big fella. So they go inside to him a lot, and that presents a challenge for us because we just don't have anybody that size. So we'll have to defend him by committee, so to speak, and try to match their athleticism up and down the court.
All right, we'll look forward to talking about that game next week when we get back together. Thanks for calling in, Coach.
Okay, Bill. Have a good one.
That's it for this week on Coach's Corner. We'll be back next Saturday for another edition of Coach's Corner on WBCK 95.3 FM.